Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation.
And that's exactly what I do. Once a day in the morning, pretty big deal of the day. Hair gel comes from. Yeah. Save America. And welcome back inside your favorite podcast in the world. And I talk about how this is the winning podcast. And today's guest is such a special and important guest to me. He is not only a 6-time Hall of Famer, he's also in the PGA Hall of Fame. And I know everybody's like, you could be a 6-time Hall of Famer. Supposedly you can, and yes, you can. His hardest job in the world probably is being my golf coach. But on top of not only being my golf coach, he is the golf coach to the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. His friends include Bill Belichick, countless numbers of celebrities, Tony Robinson, his outfits that he wears that honor people. He is amazing. He is my friend. He's my golf coach. He is a legend in the golf world, and he is a winner. Dr. Gary Wiren. Doc, welcome onto the pod.
You know, I've had a lot of introductions in places around the world, but that was pretty damn good.
No, Doc, I try. I'm like, I got to go all out for this one. So, Doc, what's been going on? How's life?
Well, you know, when people ask me that, are you talking about me or are you talking about our country? Now, that puts us in a different thing, and I don't want to have to talk about that. Let's talk. I guess we're going to talk about me.
Yeah, so what's been going on? Anything new and exciting? I mean, you've always got something exciting. And then if anybody's also wondering, if you go shopping at the PGA store and you see this yellow bag and it says Gary Wiren's Impact Bag, Dr. Wiren actually created that, and we use it all the time on the golf course. I can't use it in the house because it scares the dog a little bit, but it doesn't matter. I go outside and I use it. So first and foremost, Doc, just kind of I'll lay out the ground on how, you know, me and you met. A good friend of mine, and a golf mentor, Joe Madden, comes up to me one day. I just got finished golfing, and he goes, you're going to school in Florida? I go, yeah. He goes, you got to go check out this guy. You know, he's like a father figure to me. His name's Dr. Gary Wiren. You know, he could, I'll call him. Maybe he'll give you lessons. I'm like, okay, great. Sounds amazing. Fast forward a couple weeks later, Doc calls me, hey, this is Philip. I go, yep. He goes, okay, I'll see you at Trump International at 2:00 on Wednesday. I'm like, oh, okay. I pulled up, and it was probably the most surreal and breathtaking thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Doc comes out, and I'll show everybody a photo of, you know, one of Doc's outfits. But Doc, can you explain to my viewers about your outfits and how you honor people with what you wear? Because that, I feel like, is one of the most cool and interesting things in the world, how you have all these outfits selected that you wear to honor everybody that you give lessons to.
Well, let's give an example. For example, if someone was, their home country was Switzerland, and I knew they were coming, and they booked them in, the first time they ever see me, I'm dressed in red and white, red cap, red +4s, red tie, and so on, which is the color of the national flag of the country. So that puts, right away, it gives you a little kind of a hook. Now, if they're from the United States, which is quite a bit more often than some other country, then let's look up their college. And if it's if they were at Michigan, I would wear maize and blue, and I'd see them for the first time, and they'd look at me and they'd say, oh my God, you know, and right away you've got a special little feeling connection that you've made, that you cared enough about them to find out and honor them. That's what it's about.
I like it. So
I just will admit that I have 22 pairs of +4s, which is quite a different, there's a lot of colors in there, and I have 231 ties, and so I can match most things up, you know, and extra hats and socks and all that sort of thing. So I can go just with about anybody. But one little side story, I had I had a call from Tony Robbins. Now, I'm sure that some of our listeners or viewers here know that Tony Robbins is one of the most inspirational people in the world and does things for people that you just can't believe in terms of motivating them and changing their lives. Well, so I got this appointment coming up to give him a lesson. And so I go and look up his college. He didn't go to college. Here he's writing books all over the place, and he's changing people's lives, and he didn't go to college. So I looked up his high school, Glendora High School in California. And so I got the colors of the school, and I heard him. He came in the front door in the club at Trump International. Was walking down the hallway. First of all, he's a big guy. Secondly, he's got a huge voice. And I'm in this doorway, and when he gets about 10 yards away, I step out in front, and he kind of he kind of goes backwards a step or two. He looks at me and he says, "I'll be damned." He sees his high school colors on me. And so right away we got a little hook there. So it's a fun thing to do.
That's amazing. So, Doc, I mean, as me and you, we've talked about coaching football. So you're not only a golf coach, but probably my favorite story, and what I feel that whenever people ask me, what's your relationship with Doc like? How'd you guys become so close? And I think what me and you got so close with was we were having lunch one day, and all of a sudden, we were just talking. I was like, oh yeah, like I coach basketball, and I'm showing you all these videos of me running around in a cheetah leopard suit, screaming rebound. And then we started talking about football. So can you tell my viewers about how you coached football? You were a football coach at Michigan, and then you went on later in life now to become an iconic golf coach. So could you give us about those couple of years coaching football at Michigan and what it was like coaching college football?
Well, first of all, I played played high school football. Started at Creighton Prep in Omaha, Nebraska. I played as a freshman, and I played as a sophomore. I was on the varsity team. So I had a little career ahead of me to play football. And in the summer, I was playing junior legion baseball, hit a ball between right and center fielder, and slid into second base trying to make a double, and couldn't breathe. And they took me out, and I went to the doctor, and the old guy's taking his stethoscope, and oh, wow, you got a heart murmur, oh, no more football, no more basketball. You can play golf and baseball. So my life changed there. I'm thinking, wow, I was going to be a varsity football player at my high school. And instead of that, I'm sitting in the stands with the girls watching these guys play that didn't make the team when I was there. And but it turned out to be the most absolute best thing, because after school then I went down to help my brother and another guy who was coaching a Pop Warner midget football team. And I said, well, I'll go down. Maybe I can help them out a little bit, get the footballs and do this and do that. And so I did. And every night of the week, I'd go down and try to help them. And then my brother decides he's going to take off and go play football in Mexico City. And he was a great star and a great athlete. And so the head coach, whose name is Daryl Mudra, if you will look him up, you'll see he's in the Football Coaches Hall of Fame. And he coached Arizona, he coached Florida State, and all over, he's coached around the world. And wonderful, absolutely terrific guy, and great coach. And so I, at 16 years of age, was helping him with this midget football team. we win the city, we win the district, we earned the national championship in Florida. And my football, I did that for 2 years. And Darryl was a great offensive coach. And so I learned all the stuff about running our offense as well. And then I went to college. I went to a small college up in South Dakota, Huron College, and went out for football, went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, you're okay." So I went out. Now I knew the system they were running. The coach was a former University of Minnesota player, and what they were doing in offense was exactly what I had been teaching for 2 years. So I went in as a quarterback and became an All-American quarterback, and our team set the record in the country for the most offense 1 year. And when I got a master's degree and got a opportunity to go to the University of Michigan for it, Coach Bump Elliott said, I see you. How would you like to coach our young quarterbacks? And so I did that for 2 years at Ann Arbor. And so that was pretty big time.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So let's start talking about golf. So right away, Doc, I think my favorite stories that you've told me, and I know you got photos for us, is everybody knows, when I would coach football, they'd call me Phil Belichick, right? Because I'd wear, the short sleeve hoodies. So to talk about, because I'm trying just to pinpoint to everybody, like the amount of respect that Dr. Wiren, that the GOAT has around the world and sports is. Doc, can you please tell everybody the Bill Belichick story that you told me about you guys on the driving range?
Well, you think it's a big one? It's
one of my favorites.
Yeah, well,
the Buffett
it is.
One's a big one too. We're going to talk about that.
One of the things that I do at Trump International is I visit people, and I try to make them help them with the right things to think about in golf in terms of, not so much your swing or anything else, although I help people with that, but we talk about things that are actually more important, how to get the most enjoyment from the game, okay? And I give them examples of people who, one of our club champion, a doctor, a really good brain surgeon, and he plays. If he shoots a 68, he's fine. If he shoots a 78, he's fine. He gets the enjoyment of just doing it and being there. And so I think that's very important. So anyhow, I'm out in the range, and this guy comes up, and he's going to help this lady a minute, and turns out the lady is his wife, and it turns out that he's Bill Belichick, and he was just so nice, and talking a little about golf and what my philosophy was, my ideas, and I was honored, and really that's pretty much what happened. But I've just been a big fan of his because no pretension at all.
So, Doc, how old are you? Explain to the guests how old are you, because the next thing we're going to talk about is, we always talk about you gotta hit the driver into the fairway, and this next part is, in my opinion, the coolest thing in the world. So, Doc, if you're 87 now or 89, 87?
87. I'm 87, yeah.
You're 87. And Doc, I remember when I was looking you up before I started with you, you hit a drive 300 yards and for a world record at the age of 80. Is that correct? Or 85?
Yeah, actually, I had it at 80. That was the article there. I got one. I got one at 320 in that test, and but of course that was when I'm 80. When I was 47, 40 years ago, I entered the long driving contests, South Florida, and then the winner would go to the Nationals. So I got to the site. I just had a new driver made for me. Now it's wooden headed. And this is before steel heads, folks, and or metal heads. And it was 47 inches long. So that helped me a little bit. And I had it made for me. I'm the first one to hit. Because I talked to the pro. I said I wanted to get out of there quick. There are 53, 56, something like that, contestants, some big dudes. And I just want to get it over with and go help a guy that's playing in a tournament who had asked me to do that. And so at any rate, I got up and took some practice swings and made a good big whoosh with this. And here's what I said, and this is important. Don't try to hit it too hard. Just make your very best swing. You see, I tried to get people. I said, look, what are you trying to do? And they said, well, I'm trying to hit the ball. I said, that's your problem. He says, because you don't hit the ball, the club hits the ball. That's its job. Your job is to swing it. So I teach them a swing, and it becomes a swinging hit. And that's what we're looking for. Anyhow, I put a good one on it. The first ball of the event. So the guys are out there to measure and walk up and measure it. They're at 320, and they're waiting for the ball to come. And when I hit it, they go like this. Whoop, right over the top of their head. 381 yards, 1 foot. And they called it in, and everybody just said, what? 381. And so that was kind of a special one. And I have stayed very, very long for my age up until the virus hit here. And then I got a booster shot, and that did me in. So right now I've 181. No, I don't know. It's not very much anyhow. But I set a record that year.
Wow. So, Doc, I remember the other week we were sitting down, we were having lunch, and you actually loaned Warren Buffett a penny. I know you got some photos over there, definitely to show us about this iconic story with you and Warren Buffett, if you want to dive more into that.
Well, first of all, here's a picture of a friend of mine right there. He's a big Nebraska Cornhusker fan, and that is Warren. Really nice person, and I've had a long time relationship with him because I did a clinic at his fundraising event, the Buffett Classic, for 10 years in a row, and it was great experience to be able to just be around him because he is such a, well, he still lives in the house he bought for $49,000. Now how's that? And so this is a guy that is not going around trying to show off or do anything else. Well, you know what he's trying to do? He's trying to teach people how to invest so that they can become more affluent. And Berkshire Hathaway's done it pretty well. This is a picture, by the way, of when after I'd known Warren a while that he said he would come and look at my golf collection and going to bring his buddy in. And who was his buddy? Well, his buddy was Bill Gates. And so there was a picture of Bill's over on the other side over there, and then Warren on this side over here, my wife and I. So that you can tell that was a few years ago. But anyhow, that also leads into the fact that one of the rooms we're in right now is my museum. And if people want to go to GaryWiren.com, go to my Instagram, come in here and you'll see 100 and some posts of things you've never seen before. So while I have these pictures out, here's one example of golf balls that are, you can see, are not your normal kinds of golf balls. And I have about 2,000 balls or so. And when we were talking about, well, I just pull these while we had the picture here, about in my outfits, about things that I dress in. Here would be a perfect example of my, that would be me in tie, always necktie, +4s, and then matching colors for hat and shoes and so on. Now, why did they say +4? Because originally people wore knickers, and knickers went to the top of your knee. And then when they decided to get more stylish, and particularly when they came to the United States, and they went from the bottom of the kneecap +4 inches, and they became +4s. And so that just a little bit of information for them. So back to long drives. It's all over now. That was history. Let's talk about my favorite all-time pro, Harvey Pennick. How's
Let's
that?
do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, Harvey is the most humble human being I have ever met. For all the things that he's done, and of course, that's maybe one of the reasons is in the World Golf Hall of Fame. He started working at the Austin Country Club when he was 13, and he never left. I mean, he worked there his whole life. And one day, one of the workers there, it was Tinsley, his son. He said, "Dad, why don't you write a book? Never written a book. You're one of the real famous teachers. Why don't you?" Nobody would want to read a book by me. That's kind of the way he talked. And he said, "Dad, you don't even have to write it. You look at these notes. You've got piles of notes. And all you have to do is get a writer, and then you sit down with him, and you'll have a book." Well, he decides to do it. So they're sitting in the kitchen in Harvey's house. His wife Helen's on his left. He's sitting there, and a New York publishing attorney is just to his right, and then Bud Shrake, who wrote the book, is over there. So there are 4 people, and the attorney is saying, "Mr. Pennick, term and life, and all and everything in the contract." And it's going right over Harvey's head. I mean, he has not a clue. So pretty soon the attorney passes it over, pushes the contract over to Harvey with a pen, said, "Mr. Pennick, you'll sign right here. It'll be a $50,000 advance." I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of money. He thought that he would have to pay to get the book published. So that is humility and the greatest. And I think we're going to go on to something else. And I might just finish off with my absolutely best Harvey Pennick story that's almost unbelievable. But I kind of also wanted to mention the Senior Open at Pinehurst.
Absolutely.
I never really I didn't play golf as a professional to play. I taught golf. I taught golf pros. That was really my big job. I guess I was the U.S. Education Director for the PGA. I wrote the PGA teaching manual, 619 pages, 2.5 years of my life. And that book has been used not only it was sent to every pro in America, and then it went, of course, to many, many countries. And it's been translated into Japanese and Spanish and so on. So at any rate, the book was something that I know my wife would talk to me about. "Well, honey, let's go to the movies this week," or something like that. I said, "Honey, I can't. I got a chapter due on Monday," and and that happened over and again. We used to keep it short in our discussion. Instead of calling it the teaching manual, it was just the TM. I'm sorry, the TM and TM. pretty soon the TM became the FTM for my wife. And so, but finally, we got that thing done. And that was a huge, huge part of my life, and a chance to be able to help other people with getting the thing that they would like to get done as a teacher. So, any rate, have you got another note? Because I got a couple.
I know you got a couple. Again, a lot of my guests. So when I posted this week, I go like, my guest, he's coached a lot of famous people. So I don't think a lot of people get to say that they coached this guy right here. He was a great photo. You and President Trump right here. Probably just an iconic photo right there. You guys are like matching. You guys like twins out there. So Doc, being the 45th president of the United States' golf coach, how did you and the president first meet?
The first professional at at Trump International. Now, first of all, Trump International, where I am, is the first Trump course. Now, there are 18 to 20 now. Some other countries are also count. And so that was the beginning. And so I tell a little joke. It's a joke just to get people to laugh. But the boss said, well, first of all, and this is true, I said, Mr. Trump, how would you like me to address you? And he said, call me whatever you want. I said, okay, boss. And even when he was president, I didn't call him Mr. President, I called him boss. And so he was very, it's all right. Any way you have it. But he wanted to take a lesson. So he took a lesson, and when he got done, he said, Gary, that was a terrific lesson. And, I can get you a lot of students. And what I always add to that is to get people to laugh. I say, I can get you a lot of students, but I want 15%. And but he's a very good golfer. Let me just say that he is exceptionally for all that he's been through and going through, and that he is the best playing president we've ever had.
So I got a couple questions here from people on Instagram who asked, when I posted, who you are and you're coming on. So they got a couple of questions about the president's golf game. So the first question is, what is his best part of his game?
Putting, without question. And when I told him, he really appreciated it. I said, the first golf pro ever to write a book was Willie Park Jr. from St. Andrews. Well, he played at St. Andrews in the Open, but he won the Open twice, and his dad won it 4 times. And it wasn't always at St. Andrews. But anyhow, Willie Park in that book in 1897 said, the man who can putt is a match for anyone. That was a long time ago, and it hasn't changed. And I had a funny story, though, that went with it. I told that to a guy that was having a little putting problems, and I said, let me tell you what Willie Park said. And he listened to my story, and then he said, yeah, okay, but if you're a great chipper, you don't have to be a great putter. So he got me on that.
Next question here we have is, Doc, if you have 3 top President Trump golfing stories or 3 top President Trump stories, what would they be? So let's start out with your with number 3. What's your number 3 all-time favorite Trump story?
I am not prepared for that question, and there's a reason why. Because whether he's just my boss and not president, you just, it's kind of personal. And then when he's president, then it's really personal. And therefore, I really don't talk about any special stories that we've had together in that respect. All I say to people is, look, this is the best golfing president that's ever lived. He's really talented. He can still hit it a long ways. He's a great putter, and and he loves golf. That was probably part of the real important one. There's a couple of other things we didn't talk about sometimes, and the one story I want to, when you let me know what the closing story should be. Are we close? Or
10 minutes away. 10 minutes away, because I know you got a lot you want to talk about. So
yeah, okay.
We got a lot of time.
All right. Well, let me I've got two special stories.
Okay.
Let's take first of all one that isn't so special. I was playing in the Pacific Northwest PGA Championship. I was a pro at a golf course in Oregon, in Eugene, Oregon. I was there to get a PhD, and I started a golf school, and it became one of the largest in the country. We went through 12,000 people, and with 20 at a time, and so on and so forth. And that was, but I had this some time to practice and play. So I'm playing in the Northwest Open, and I was hitting the ball great and hitting a lot of greens, but I just was not making the putts. And the caddy said to me, I was coming close, but they weren't going in. He said, "Mr. Gary, when we got done, you's got more lips than Moses Malone." And this was a big basketball player who had huge lips. And I lipped out so many times, he thought I had more lips than Moses Malone. But the one I'd like to share with you also before I get to my strong end one here is, I did the PGA Junior Golf Game. There's a lot of things I've done in golf that no one's ever had done before, and they're still there. And this one was called the PGA World Junior Academy. We had kids from all over the world, and Korea and Sweden and everything, who would come for a week in Boca Raton, Florida, and I would pick out the best PGA teachers I could for my staff, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And one of the things we did was we would always bring in a tour pro, and the tour pro would come in on a Tuesday, and they would spend the day with the kids, and it was so wonderful to be able to do that. And one of the players was named J. Hebert. J. Hebert won the PGA Championship, and was a very good player, a handsome guy, really well-spoken. And one of the things he really insisted with the kids was, look, I'm going to hit this shot. This is a pitching wedge I'm hitting. One of the things I want you to absolutely do is get yourself a good pitching wedge. So that was on Tuesday. And on Thursday night, we have skit night, where the kids put on a little, each of the 6 teams we have puts on a little show on the stage. So this one team had a stage, and they had there were 11 kids on a team, and there were 9 of them up there standing on the stage swinging like they were on the range, and another one was the coach, like one of us, and they'd put a big pillow under his belly and all that, so he looked like he was fat, kind of playing a little fun on us. And then while they're doing this, all of a sudden off from the wings runs a kid, comes running on the stage. He's got a club in his hand. He holds it up. He says, I got it. They said, you got what? And he said, I got me a pitching wedge. And everybody said, well, where'd you get it? He said, I stole it out of J.A. Bear's bag. And so it was funny, because Jay said, I don't care where you get it, get yourself a good pitching wedge.
That's amazing. So, Doc, I got a couple more questions, but I have one story that I don't know if you're going to talk about, but if I don't ask it, somebody's going to be very upset with me if I don't ask it. So, I know that it was either, if I'm trying to just remember the story as much as I can, but it was your birthday or it was Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus's birthday, and you guys went out onto a public golf course, walked the golf course, and you guys got through a couple holes before you guys had to stop because the press heard where you guys were. Is that true?
Nope.
No?
No, I played with Arnie and that and Jack, but the best story I have about Jack is he wrote a book very famous, and it was Golf My Way. And the book I had it in my office, and Barbara Nichols comes in to see me about something, and I had it. I said, Barb, Jack's book is just wonderful, Golf My Way. And so I reached up with my books there, bookshelf, and pulled it down, but I pulled another book with it. And it was a book written by Gus Bernardoni, a pro in Chicago. And the book was entitled, I told Barb, I said, Barb, I go to a higher authority. She looked at me kind of funny. And what was the title of the book? Golf God's Way. And so Jack took second place on that one. But that family, those two people have done so much for golf. And I'm so proud of the fact that Jack is one of the great, is such a great player. And yet he is so committed to helping at this stage in life, particularly.
I like it. That's a great story. So, Doc, we're coming close to the end here. I know I think you got a couple more stories you want to go through, but real quick, a lot of people, they did ask in the comment section, your thoughts about live golf and players getting paid all this money. We saw that new Netflix series came out, it took us inside look at the PGA Tour. What are your whole thoughts about the live golf and the PGA Tour? Do you think that the PGA Tour needs to up the winnings, or do you think that they're ever going to come together down the road?
Well, I was disappointed that they would abdicate and start a competitor. But at the same time, it obviously encouraged, I would be a soft word to use, encouraged the PGA Tour to up things and make it more reasonable for our members on the PGA Tour here. I'm not such a person that is against what the LIV golf is doing, only against the country where they're getting their resources. It's more to me about Saudi's record, not LIV's record.
I like it. You got a couple more stories for us?
I've got two.
Okay.
Last year I was on the range, and there was a man and woman there, and we were the only ones hitting balls. It was kind of late in the afternoon, and they're ready to take off. They're from Canada, and they looked over at me and they said, Gary, we're going to play 9 holes. Would you like to play with us? Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to play. I haven't been playing any, but let's do it. So we played front 9 at Trump. We get off the 9th green, the par 5, and came in there, and we're walking up the hill, and I'm carrying my putter in my hand, and they're walking up and going to chat a little bit. And I said, wait a minute, stop right there. They're halfway up the hill. And I faced them. They looked at me, and I said, I just want to tell you something. First of all, that's the first 9 holes I've played in quite a while, but it was the worst 9 holes I have ever played on this course in 22 years. And I wanted to tell you, I had a very good time. because you people are so damn nice that I enjoyed myself fully. And it was kind of a story of something I preach, but never really did it so much myself. And that is not be so tied up in just my little old personal score, but how about with people I'm with, the beautiful place I'm playing, the fun, the weather, the everything. I was blessed. So that was a good for me. That was a good lesson, and it was one I wanted to share. The other one is a finishing one is going to surprise every one of your viewers here, and this goes to another Harvey Pennick story. It's a true one. And Harvey was probably a year away from death. And he was at the club, Austin Country Club, and one of the workers came up and said, Harv, there's a women's senior amateur tournament over about 10 minutes from here at a different course. You know, we could take you over there. I'll bet you taught a lot of those women when they were 12 years old, you know, and so it'd be a chance to, oh, all right, you know. So Harvey gets in the cart, in a car. They drive him over there, get him in a cart. Now it's a shotgun start, so all the women are up on the range there, and Harvey, they pull the cart up alongside to at one of the ends of the range, and two of the women look over and say, "Oh, look, there's Harvey. Oh, let's go." You know, they go over and they say, "Hey, Harvey, we're so happy to see you. We love you so much," and so on. And he was, he'd have his head down a little bit because he was bent over and that. But then they left, and it was about time to have the shotgun start when one other lady who hadn't seen Harvey all of a sudden sees him. Now, let me tell you, back up a bit, because this story took place at the AJGA annual awards dinner, which was held at PGA National Resort and Spa and Hotel. And every year they bring the finest junior players in all of their events. And Phil Mickelson one year was the most, and Spieth was one that was the top. And so it's really high class. But that isn't what impressed me so much. Is but how the kids dressed, how they acted, how behaved they. I mean, it's always been very good. So at any rate, my wife and I are standing ready to go in to the dinner and sit down and listen to the event. And there were two people standing there all alone in this area. And I went over to them and I said, "Hi, my name's Gary. Where are you folks from?" They said, "Austin, Texas." I said, "Austin, Texas? That's the home of my all-time most famous, loved golfer and golf pro, Harvey Pennick." And they kind of nodded their heads and they said, "Let me tell you a story." So I tell them this story about Harvey going up to the thing and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the story, there's one woman who hadn't come over yet. So she comes over and said, "Oh, Harvey, I didn't see you over here. Oh, I love you so much." She takes his hand and they chat a little bit and this. And she said, "Harvey, I have to go play golf now." And she walks 2 or 3 steps away and he says, "Margaret, Margaret." She looks back. He says, "Get back here." She, "What?" "Get back here." She comes back and he takes her hand and he looks right at her and he says, "Margaret, you don't have to go play golf. You get to go play golf. It's not a right. It's a privilege. That's the point." And then I looked at these two people I was telling it to, and I looked at the lady, and the lady looked at me, And she said, "Gary, I'm Margaret." What? I just told the story to the lady that it happened to. I couldn't believe coincidence in life when these things happen. But there, I wanted to finish on that story. It's not a right; it's a privilege, and it's all. And Harvey Pennick is a beautiful person. So I'd like to leave it there.
That's a great story. So, Doc, real quick, we've got our signature questions, quick questions that we just added into the show the other night for our show that aired last week. So our philosophy signature questions is, what is your word of the year?
My word of the year. Does that have to do with golf?
It could do with anything.
Anything. All right. My word of the year would be patience.
What advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
I would remind myself of what was said in the book by Willie Park Jr. The man who can putt is a match for anyone. And as far as further talking about golf now, I would.
Anything. Life. These are in-depth life questions.
Practicing, working at something and repeating it and doing it and doing it and doing it right. Okay.
If you could, these are two questions, kind of the same. So the first one is, if you could have dinner with 4 people, who would those 4 people be in the world?
Well, I would first of all have Warren. I would have Arnie. I would have Bob Jones, and I would have I think I'm just thinking of my presidents that I liked. I guess there'll be 3 of them, and there'll be 4 of us sitting at a table.
Now, same question, but golf. 4 people to golf with. Anybody in the world?
Yeah, well, I would take Gary Player, and I would take the man who I would love to be able to show you a picture of, and I don't have it right here. The Armless Wonder.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you've seen it. He has no arms.
Yes, I remember you.
Yeah, he held the club between his chin and shoulder like this and turned his head through, and it showed him hitting drives, and he could hit it 160 yards.
Yeah, I remember that. You showed me that. I hit like a bad drive, and you go, if this guy could hit it straight, you could hit it straight.
Right. That would be a very, very interesting. And I'd want to play with if you want to have some fun, I'd play with Chichi Rodriguez. And if you wanted to have more inspiration, then I'd play with Jack.
All right, Doc, final question. The viewers want to know. They're dying to know. You've coached multiple people, former presidents, future presidents down the line, hopefully. Football players, like guys like Lawrence Taylor, all these people. If you gave an assumption of Phil Bacacci's golf swing and golf game that you've seen, what would the takeaway be?
You're asking me if I watched Phil Bacacci swing a golf club, what would my takeaway be?
What would your biggest takeaway be from training me the last 6 months?
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what it's going to be.
I know what it's going to be, but everybody else doesn't. And that's what they're all dying to hear.
What it's going to be is this. This guy has talent. he can be a damn good player if he would focus more on routine and his mental thoughts and his feel for the shot that's coming, but focus on it.
What's your favorite part of my game?
Well, actually, I think you drive the ball. You drive the ball a long ways when you hit a good one, and we're just trying to get it, so that's more frequent.
Doc, thank you. No, as always, we always ask our guests, you got any questions for me you want to do real quick? If not, we're all done.
Well, it's been enjoyable. If all those that are listening or watching or whatever, just remember my first line of the first book that I wrote. Golf is a game, and as such, is meant to be enjoyed. That was my first line of 15 books. Still believe it.
Doc, thank you. Everybody, thank you. As always, philosophy, always there, never stop. This is the Winners Podcast. Winners win. Boom.